Hello, and welcome to SPAMinar, the Society of Prop Managers webinar series for live theater professionals. I am Ben Hohman, SPAM member and co-chair of the Education Committee. SPAM, short for the Society of Prop Managers, got its start back in 1994 when a small but mighty group of prop folks in the Midwest came together to tackle shared challenges and make sure props had a seat at the table alongside other production departments. Fast forward to today, and we're a thriving group of over 150 professional prop managers and educators from theaters, opera companies, and schools, all connected through an international network. We share resources, swap tips, troubleshoot problems, and support each other with everything from safety to continuing education. Like our past webinars, tonight's webinar is Pay What You Can. Any donations go directly to supporting this program and our annual grants for early career prop professionals. If you're able to chip in, we'll drop the link in the chat. Every bit helps, and we're super grateful for your support. Just a heads up, live transcription is on for today's webinar, so you can follow along in real time. We're also recording our talk, and we'll share it later on our YouTube channel. Now it's time for the good part, and our first ever SPAMinar Prop Shop Tour. This month, we'll be taking an inside look at my home theater, the Utah Shakespeare Festival, where I've worked for 33 years. In this tour, we'll take you through our shop spaces, where we build and manage props for a huge summer season of 11 productions. We'll take a look at different areas of the shop, including carpentry, crafts, soft goods, graphics, and prop storage, and hear about how we expand from a two-person department throughout the year to an 8 to 10-person department in the spring and summer to tackle all of those shows. We build as many as 11 shows at the same time in 8 to 10 weeks. So our space is fairly large, which you'll see. This tour is recorded because the internet connection at the shop would not allow for a live tour. Plus, I would be all over the place and terrible. So editing is my friend. We recorded the tours you're going to see tonight in 2021. So I refer a lot to projects that we did in 2021 and 2022. Also, you will see and hear our shop cat Turtle several times. She showed up one day in 2008 before we even moved into the space. And she lived at the shop for 16 years before she passed away in 2024. But you'll see and hear her a lot throughout both of the tours. After the shop tour portion, we'll take a few minutes to answer questions. So as we go through, feel free to drop questions or comments into the chat. I will also throw some comments in there as we go as well. And then after the shop tour part and the questions, we'll also do a warehouse tour so you can see our warehouse space as well. So without further ado, I'm going to try to share the first tour.
Hello everybody, Ben Hohman with the Utah Shakespeare Festival here, and today we're going to tour the prop shop. So come on! Turtle's here to greet us, as she is every day. This is our break room and our meeting room. So every morning when the staff gets here, we all get together and hang out here. And just like if you saw the warehouse tour a couple of weeks ago, we love to hold on to old things that aren't going to be in shows again, but that we really like. So we have posters and props. And we're going to head upstairs first to show you some fun stuff up there. So up here is where we mostly do a lot of our paper props, which is officially called ephemera. So newspapers, magazines, scrolls, letters, phone books, all that kind of stuff we create up here. So we have a lot of storage for those things on open shelving here and filing cabinets. We also have a huge research library. So we have books on paper props, on weapons, on different periods in history. We have old catalogs and magazines, books on art, scripts, furniture building, all that kind of stuff. We're constantly getting more books, so our research library is always expanding. Bunch of ephemera here needs to be put away. And then on this side of the room, we have all the stuff we need to make those paper props. So blank paper of different types and different sizes, rolls of paper to go on our plotter, pens, pencils, markers, things to cut paper, all that kind of stuff. We have a computer up here that we use to do all the typing of those graphics and things like that. And lots of file cabinets full of stuff. Every drawer has something fun in it, and things. And then we have this room, the weapon storage room. So all of our weapons that we use here at the festival are stored in this room. We buy most of them from weapons manufacturers, forges, so people hand make them for us. There's a company in New York that makes a lot of our steel weapons here, and we have a guy we've been working with for several years in Illinois who makes a lot of our aluminum weapons. When we get downstairs, we'll show you some weapons we had made for Pericles for next summer. But guns, swords, none of our weapons are real. They're not sharp. If they come sharp, we dull them down. We don't want to hurt any of our actors. And none of our guns are real guns. They are theatrical guns. At the most, they can fire blank ammunition, but they cannot have real ammunition put into them. Many of them are just dummy guns. You can't actually get any kind of ammunition in them. They're just for looks. So anyway, a lot of stuff in here, and every year we add new things to this room, and as the shows demand, depending on the type of shows we're doing and the weapons that we need for each show. And we have an inventory of all of this that we've done recently, so our designers can look at it before they get here and know what we have and what they can use. Lots of spears. So we have our own dye room. It's actually used for more than that. We have an old soup kettle that we use as a dye vat. We have a washer and dryer. We also have a stove and oven in here. So all of our chemical mixing, all that kind of stuff happens in this room. So we can change the color of fabric or age or distress it or things like that. We also do a lot of paper distressing in there sometimes. We'll make fake money and throw it in the dryer with a wet towel to sort of soften it up and make it feel like it's been used for a long time instead of being crisp and brand new. Things like that. Coming this way, we have a bathroom. We call it our courtesy booth. And then this is our office. Marielle and I share the office. So the first desk you're going to see is Marielle's desk. And all the catalogs that we use are behind her desk. And then in the corner is my desk, which you could probably tell because of all the monkeys behind my desk. And Turtle is still hanging out with us. Yeah. So this is where all the brainstorm happens and stuff. This lamp was a donation. The rumor is it came from a brothel in Nevada, according to the person who gave it to us. But I just think it's really awesome, and so we use it in my office. So a lot of the staff eats lunch here every day. So we have a little kitchen area, microwaves, a toaster oven, and a fridge where they can store their food and cook and stuff. And this way, we have our soft goods room. So soft goods, which I think I talked about in the warehouse, anything fabric-based for a show. So upholstered furniture, curtains, banners, those kinds of things all happen in this room. We also do a lot of sewing for the scenery department as well in here. So we have a lot of our supplies all in labeled bins up here. This is kind of our tool area for this room. Sewing machines. We use industrial machines and home machines as well as sergers. A lot of fabric and trim is stored in here as well. We also have some storage containers outside that have some of that stuff stored in them as well. So one of the cool machines we get to use, not all the time, but every once in a while, is this AccuQuilt machine. When we did the 2011 Midsummer Night's Dream that Fred directed for the 50th anniversary, they designed this huge willow tree, and the designer designed this shape for the leaves. And so we actually had a custom die made, which I'm going to run through the machine right now. Maybe. And if it worked, we have 3 leaves. And so this, we didn't use felt when we did the show. We did a much thinner material. And so we would stack 8 to 10 layers of fabric on here and run it through. So we'd get about 30 leaves per pass. We made somewhere between 40 and 50,000 leaves for that tree. So we spent a lot of time running through this machine. Since then, we've used this machine for several things. We actually, again, had a custom fleur-de-lis die made about 5 or 6 years ago that makes awesome fleur-de-lis. And these we actually ironed onto banners and then quilted on to make a bunch of banners for a show. We've bought a smaller fleur-de-lis. We did flowers for production of Winter's Tale that we hung on strings for the spring scene. In that show, we did hearts for production of Marvelous Wanderettes. So every once in a while, and last year we did leaves, red leaves for the Scottish play and stuff. So every once in a while, this machine comes in super handy and it's super fun, and then we take it apart and stack it in a corner until we need it the next time. So as we're leaving the soft goods room, this is Walter. He's our boarhead that was on a door and 39 steps. So this was the front of the door, and as you come through our meat curtain here, uh, on the back of the door was Walter's butt. It was a visual joke. So this is our main shop area. It's kind of divided into basically sort of three main areas. This is what we call the craft area. So smaller things like floral is done over here. Our hot glue is stored over here. So small detailed things generally happen in this area. The flammable cabinets are full of our spray paints and our stains, things like that, glues, those kind of things. This is our paint area. In this corner, we do have a working sink over here. All of our paint is by color on shelves, brushes, all that kind of stuff. So try to use the space as efficiently as we can, make sure we have space to do all the things that we need to do as well. All the painting doesn't happen on this one table. This is where all the stuff is stored. Small projects may happen here, but then as needed, we'll move the stuff out to the different spaces. This wall is mostly our tools and hardware area. So all of our hand power tools are over here, labeled pretty well on the shelves. And then our hardware is the next section over, so all of our screws and staples and all that kind of stuff, along with specialty hardware. Each of our artisans normally gets a table to work at for the entire season. So we have 8 tables here in the middle of the shop, and they're all on wheels, so we can roll them around, put them together, move them out of the way if we have to build a large project like a bed or something like that. We started on a couple things for next year, which we'll show you as we kind of go through here. And as you look around, like there's stuff everywhere from previous shows. So we recently cleaned off this top shelf and brought some pieces over from the warehouse that I really love. There's some great things up here. I won't point them out because the camera's moving at a different speed than I am. And then the entire ceiling we've slowly over the years decorated with old banners, old photos from shows, and then prop pieces from shows as well. That again, probably won't ever get used in a show again, but are just really cool and fun to show off and stuff like that. So one of the things for Pericles, we're working a lot on Pericles right now in the shop, are all the weapons, which just recently came in. These are all aluminum weapons. They were made by a sword maker in Illinois. This is a trident, that this will actually be Pericles' weapon. And then we have a couple of cutlasses here. This is a Roman short sword. And a couple other weapons here as well. I'll pick them all up. But they're all aluminum, and as I said upstairs, they are not sharp at all. I mean, the width of this is a good 1/8 of an inch, if not more. So it's not going to hurt anybody, except for if you swing really hard. The force might break your skin or something, but you're not going to cut somebody with this. But it still requires a lot of rehearsal to make sure that they're used safely and stuff. So these are all for Pericles. The other big thing we're doing is at the beginning of Pericles, Turtle's helping out some more. At the beginning of Pericles, there's a scene where as Pericles is beginning his adventure, there's a rack of heads. Different people have tried to go on this quest before and have failed, and so they get decapitated and put on this rack. And so Apollo Weaver, our designer, has designed this really cool head rack, which we'll show you the design in just a minute. But we've cut out these pieces. This is half. There's an arch that someone can walk through. This is half of the arch. And there's some side panels that come out as well. And then each one of these pikes will actually have a head on it. And there's some additional pikes that swing out forward on this piece as well that will get added. And this will get aged and distressed and then painted to look like wrought iron, like hand wrought iron. So we've started on this, and it'll be a really cool piece in the show. This is in the opening part of Pericles. And then as we kind of continue around the shop here, this is kind of our main woodworking area. So we have our larger tools, drill press, bandsaw, chop saw, table saw, our large lumber rack, and our large loading garage door. So most of the raw material comes in this door, and then when things are finished, they also go out this door into our box truck to be transported to the theater. The other thing that we do, because we're doing so many different shows, is we have this shelf here that has laundry baskets. Normally there's a laundry basket in every spot, but we would use them to haul some other stuff around. So as things get finished for the show and need to go to rehearsal, they get dropped in the laundry basket. And then every day before rehearsal begins, Marielle will load up the truck with all the stuff that needs to go to rehearsal that day, take all the laundry baskets with, drive it over to the theaters, drop it off to the rehearsal spaces, pick up anything that is no longer being used. It's dead, so it comes back to be put away, put back in storage. Or if something has been broken and needs to be fixed, that'll come back on the truck as well. And so this is a good way to keep all the shows organized, to know what's going and what's coming and all that kind of stuff. And then this way. This is one of my favorite pieces that we built just a couple years ago. This is our cuckoo clock from the tavern a couple falls ago. This whole thing was built in the shop out of found pieces mostly. The scenic artist actually carved the rabbit and the chicken that are on the sides there. The bag at the bottom is actually a felt bag we actually sewed. And then all the guns are actually plastic guns from Walmart that we found and painted. The deer head is actually a resin deer from Target. There's some 70s wall decor pieces in there. There's a couple of monkeys up top there. Some carved wood at the bottom. And the whole thing, it's actually a functioning clock. We need to change the battery, but we use it as one of the shop clocks. And then a duck popped out where the cuckoo was supposed to be and quacked during the show to tell us what time it was. Super fun project to put together. And then here on our whiteboard is that drawing of the head rack that I was telling you about, so you get a better idea of the arch here, and all the green circles represent the heads that'll be on it. And then you can see how the side panels come forward. This will provide visual interest as well as support for this piece because it's on the slip stage. So it'll ride out on the slip, be used for a scene, and then taken off and struck. So that's kind of one of the things we're working on right now here in the shop. So another cool machine we have at the shop, we don't use a whole lot, is this stencil cutting machine. I don't know how old it is, but it's a really fun machine. So you cut a piece of press board to the size you want your stencil to be, and you slide it into the machine, and you lock it down, which allows it to then move the paper. And you turn the wheel to whatever letter you want to start with, and you crank the handle, and then you just continue doing that while you spell out the words that you need. Turtle has joined us because she's excited about this. And then when you're done, you slide it out, and you have a word. So this says props. We've done U.S. Army for crates, things like that. So super fun machine, sits on a shelf a lot of the time, but when we need it, we have a cool stencil cutting machine. So for Pirates of Penzance next summer, Act 2 takes place in sort of a family mausoleum. And so the set designer, Joe Winarski, has designed some tombstones that are used in Act 2. So this is her sort of rendering that she sent us. The basic shape is shown in white, and that's the shape we need to cut out. And the one next to it, and each one of them, is sort of the finished look of each one with moss and lettering and stuff. And then they each have a little base so they can stand up on their own. But the actors move them around during the scene, hide behind them and stuff like that. So we want to keep them super lightweight. So instead of using wood as a base, which can be heavy, because these tombstones are about 2 feet by 4 feet, we decided to use all foam. So we're using 2 types of foam. The first foam is a dense foam called gator foam, and it's got a really dense center core and then like a hardboard on the outsides, which gives it a lot of structural integrity. So we'll cut the shape out of that first, and then we'll apply a layer of styrofoam. This is just sort of generic styrofoam. A lot of this came out of like packaging of things that have been shipped to us, props or things like that. So we hold on to all of this. And styrofoam comes in many different densities. So some of the styrofoam you get in packaging has a lot of holes in it, and you can sort of see the individual beads of foam before they crush it. This is a really dense styrofoam, so all the beads are really close together. So we apply this to the front of the gator foam, and then we can use chemicals to sort of eat away at the styrofoam to give it an aged and distressed look. So this is a tombstone that we built for Great Expectations, the musical, a number of years ago. And you can see by putting chemicals on it, it eats away the foam in a really cool way to make it look like it's stone that's been eaten away and weathered away by wind and water and being out in the weather a whole lot. And so we'll do this to the styrofoam. Turtle is making me lose my concentration. We'll do this to the styrofoam and then paint it, age it, add all the lettering and the moss to give us a really cool looking tombstone that can be used for Act 2 of Pirates of Penzance next summer. So come and see that. So another one of our fun tools we have is this rind picking machine. It's used by florists to add a little metal spike to the end of fake flowers to put into flower arrangements. So you basically cut your flowers to the length you need, and then you place them in this machine. I've already got one pick going, but I'll do another one in a second. And then you crank down, and it actually pinches this metal tab around the end of the flower so you can jam it into floral foam or something like that. So we're going to try doing it again. So this first movement should slide a pick forward. Sometimes it gets jammed up. There we go. Then you lay your flower in place, you clamp down, and you pull the stem out, and there you go. So you have a little spike to go into floral foam. And you can do that over and over and over. We have done it a ton. We did Three Musketeers who made some giant hedges. We built them out of plywood and foam. There was boxwood hedges, and then we ended up doing little boxwood picks and did this picking machine on each one of those little picks, and we're able to then make the big boxwood hedge. We also used it on some boxwood for the lyre a couple falls ago and made a statue of Cupid that was supposed to be totally made out of boxwood, and we did the same thing. So our rind picking machine makes little floral picks so we can jab into foam and makes it so that our flowers look lovely. So we have so much stuff that the warehouse and the shop don't contain it all. So we have a couple of shipping containers outside of our shop. This one is referred to as container 1 because it's the first one. And in here we have a lot of fabric storage, really large bolts of fabric, and then all of our picture frames. And we just recently finished an inventory of all of our frames. So every frame has a tag on it now, has a number, the frame size, the artwork size, and the other information for us. And then this is all in a computer database so designers can go through and sort of pick the frames that they want to use, and we can come out and pull them and have them ready to go. So we have lots and lots. I think we have over 800 picture frames that we've just inventoried. Medium-sized bolts of fabric, so upholstery size 54-inch and 45-inch bolts live out here. We'll come out and grab them, use them in the soft goods room, and then bring them back out. And then baskets. Shockingly, the Shakespeare Festival uses lots of baskets, and we have a lot of baskets. We're still in the process of organizing all of the baskets. We just clean them up and reduce the quantity by about 10 or 15%. But there's probably, we haven't counted them yet, I'm guessing 300 to 350 baskets in this container. So there's container 1, fabric, baskets, and frames. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but they're large quantities. We need somewhere to put them, so they're in container 1. On to container 2. So this is container 2. If you've ever heard me in my seminar talk about the Frou-Frou A-Go-Go container, this is it. This is where most of our cool stuff is stored. So on the right, the first couple shelves here are all special effects. So everything from bike brake cables to water effects, pumps, pyro cannons, smoke machines, all that kind of stuff lives here. On the right side is all of our upholstery foam that we'll either pull out of old furniture and reuse or buy new and cut up and use. And if we can recycle that multiple times through multiple shows, we'll do that. Then we get into finials of all different types in these bins here. I'll point them out. We have lots and lots of wood and plastic finials. And then we get into furniture legs and arms. So we can come out here and pull individual pieces and put them together to make a new piece of furniture. And then we just go into bins and bins of all kinds of things. Corks and bells, candle parts. Here are rose petals and confetti that we drop from the sky on occasion in different shows. Treasure coins and treasure jewels, crystals for chandeliers, all kinds of lamp parts. We reuse lamp parts to make all kinds of things out of them. So we have all kinds of, we tear apart lamps all the time and use those. Beads. And then we apply things to give us texture and depth to our props. So we have a whole section that is just the texture section. So medium, large, small applique pieces, rings, seashells. It just goes on and on. There's a whole bin of mirror balls, letters, textured wallpaper. It just goes on and on. Here's twine, cannonballs. We have a whole bin of, they're basically styrofoam balls. We'll use them as cannonballs in a production of Pirates of Penzance many years ago. Backer rod. This is a foam rod that's used for insulation in windows and things like that. We have all different sizes of it that we use. We apply it as a decorative texture. We use it to fill things, to make vines, all kinds of different things. Here's a bunch of textural woven things. So we have actual woven material, plastic material that mimics that, those kinds of things. Then we have our large section. So these are large pieces of lamps or turned pieces that we've found or made that we can, again, repurpose, put together in multiple ways to make a larger prop out of it. Radio components. When we did South Pacific, we had to make a whole radio, World War II radio, and so we used parts of these and put them together to make a radio. Some more legs and parts down here, mostly for furniture construction. and then additional foam of different types, EVA foam and other kinds of foams for different purposes here as well. So tons of stuff in container 2. Probably at least once a day in the shop you hear somebody say, it's probably in container 2, and somebody has to come out here and dig around and find it, which is why all the labeling and stuff really helps. This is our trim container. Many years ago, a lady in Las Vegas donated. She bought a building, and it was an old curtain manufacturing place. She went in, and it was full of trims and fabrics and things. So we went down with a 24-foot box truck and hauled back a truck full of stuff. And we've been using it for multiple years, and this is what's left. So we recently just cleaned this all out and reorganized it by color and type. So we have blue gips, and then we have blue tassel-y stuff, and fringe, and all kinds of different things. And designers can come in here, find the color they want, find the style they want. Here's what's got little tassels attached to them. Then we have ball fringy kind of stuff up on top. We also have bins and bins and bins of tassels of almost every color imaginable. So again, just by color, by style, by type. If a designer can't find something in here that'll work for the show, would be amazing to me. Because we have so many options, so many colors, lots of stuff from the 70s and 80s, like original trim that you can't get anymore. The companies don't make it. And we have spools and spools and spools of it, which is super awesome. And then back here at the end, we have multicolor. So things that aren't just a single color, but multicolor. These are very useful, especially when you're doing a Victorian show and you need to tie in different colors and things like that. And then over here, we get into our whites, our golds, our browns, our silvers, our metallics, things like that. And then a couple of bolts that are much larger, have a lot more volume. Most of these are probably 20-yard bolts. These are probably 50 or 100-yard bolts. So a lot more quantity. So when you make something that has a lot of trim on it or something, that's available here as well. And then some bins of scarves and stuff that we use as texture, as well as a lot more ball fringe. We use a lot for like our Playmakers shows, our kids shows and stuff like that. And some space to expand. I mean, we're going to use this up, maybe use this for other storage, but a lot of cool stuff in here. And then we have a little space in the front here. So we do a lot of recycling at the festival. Almost all of our cardboard boxes and paper that we use end up getting recycled. So we're currently using the front of this as our sort of recycling spot. We load it all up here until we get a truck full and then take it and get it recycled. So those are all the containers.
Thanks for taking a little time today to watch the tour of the prop shop. I hope you learned a little about kind of what we do and some of the things that we use, and saw some cool stuff that's going on for next season. And hopefully we'll catch you again in another video in the future. There we go. Any other questions about the shop before we move to the warehouse? How does weather affect what is stored in containers? It's actually not too bad. I mean, we're in the desert, so it's very dry. We do not get a lot of moisture. And in the winter, they're very cold, but we don't go out there a lot in the winter. In the summer, they do get a little warm, but we try not to put anything that's going to melt, like candles don't store in the container, things like that. So we're kind of aware that they do get really hot and really cold. But generally, things are generally mostly fine in the containers. If there are other questions, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, if I don't see any in the next minute or two, we will jump into the warehouse tour. No problem. We love it. It's the fourth shop that I've been in my 33 years here. The first two were kind of found spaces that we made, where we actually used to work in the trap rooms of the theaters, which was not at all good. And then we found a space in town, in a different space. And then we actually got a semi-designed space, like all the office space in the soft goods room. We actually got to sort of lay all that out and figure it out for the way that we work, which was really nice. So yeah, I'm not moving shops again. I will die at this shop. So there's no other questions. There'll be time at the end for questions as well. So if you think of something awesome, and we're going to jump into the warehouse tour. Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Hohman. I'm the props director here at the Utah Shakespeare Festival. Today, we're going to give you a little tour of our warehouse. I talk about it a lot in my seminars, but you've never got a chance to see it. So walk down a couple aisles and show you some of our favorite things that we have here in stock. So come on down. So our first aisle is basically our chair aisle. We, being a Shakespeare Festival, have a throne section, two areas full of thrones.
We have chairs of all different types. They're not really organized in a way that would make sense to other people, but they make sense to kind of us. So they're grouped by style, type, and how we use them. Yeah. Here we have a dead body. This was last Ophelia in a production of Hamlet last year. We do a lot of texturing and distressing of things. So this bench is sandblasted to pull out the grain. This one here, the artisans actually took knives and carved into it with graffiti as if it was in a bar. So this was probably used in a production of Merry Wives, more than likely in one of the bar scenes. Come on now. We just have lots of stuff. We think we have about 1,000 pieces of furniture. We're currently working on an inventory system. With some of our downtime right now, we're actually using that to our advantage to get some things organized and figured out. So hopefully in a year I'll have an actual number of how many pieces of furniture we have in the warehouse. But there's a lot. And we pull a lot every year. We probably pull about 50% of our props from any given season and modify them in some way, reupholster, repaint, things like that. We'll buy about 25% new and modify those, and then we'll build about 25%. Those are averages, and they change year to year, but that's basically kind of about what we do on any given year. So as an example, these two chairs, which are a set, we bought from Overstock a couple years ago. I believe they were a light tan when we first got them. So we stained them. We took the upholstery off from Overstock. We stained them. And then we upholstered both of them in this red fabric for Treasure Island. We also molded these little decorative elements out of resin. This one is probably missing, it is. And added those to give it a little more oomph. And then last year, for Henry VI, we were looking for something to be a throne, but our time period was shifting throughout the show, and so we didn't want to use one of our sort of historically accurate thrones. So instead, our designer chose this chair, which we reupholstered into this gold fabric to give it more of a royal appearance. So the next time we use these, we may reupholster them again and make them into a set again, or we may use just one of them. So it's one of the ways we kind of reuse our stock on a regular basis. So we have some collections in the warehouse that don't really have a good spot to go, like our medieval section. So we have a lot of torches and shield type things that might be on fireplaces or things like that, as well as several suits of armor. This is one. There are two more here around the corner because we had to get our lift through here the other day. But so this becomes like our little medieval section. And then we have planters. Again, something else that doesn't really have a home are these giant chandelier candelabra things that we built for Three Musketeers a number of years ago. As I said, doing inventory, we're working on stools right now, which is why this aisle is a complete mess, because we've pulled all of the stools off of the shelves to inventory them all and then put them back up. So those empty shelves that you see, a couple of those were just added a couple weeks ago, and all the stools will end up going up there. So very carefully, we'll come down this aisle. So this is sort of tables and more large upholstered furniture. So wingback chairs, couches, Victorian settees, things like that. And then every kind of table imaginable. We probably have about, I would guess, 200 tables, maybe a little more than that. We also, I don't know if we can get up high enough, but all of our chandeliers are hung from the rafters in this aisle. Again, just a way to be able to see what we have and not to pile them up or stack them. We even reused some of our props as warehouse materials. So this rolling stepladder here was actually bought for Guys and Dolls and was used as a prop in the show in the sewer scene. But now we use it to help get stuff off of the shelves in the warehouse. And then this next ladder was actually bought and painted to look really old and abused for the Iliad. From a couple years ago, and because it's a nice tall platform ladder, we also use it in the warehouse to help get stuff down off of shelves and things like that. So multiple uses for things. So one of the things that we do a lot of at the festival is reuse items in different ways, or apply them to other things to make things look more interesting or textured or things like that. So a couple examples of that. This microphone, which looks like a period like 20s or 30s microphone, is actually the innards from a couple of telephones. and then some springs and a whole bunch of eye bolts. And then this outside ring is actually just a piece of plastic PVC. To buy a period microphone like this would be hundreds of dollars. And we don't need it to function because generally when we're using something like this, the actors are going to have a wireless mic on. So we don't need the functionality, we just need the look. And so this we're able to put together for maybe $5 or $6 and some scraps from the warehouse, and can achieve the same sort of visual look. We also do a lot of walking sticks of different types. And a lot of them are very, very specific. So some of these may be a little hard to see, but this is a Prospero staff from a Tempest. And this one is where the designer and the director thought the idea that Prospero was like Leonardo da Vinci, a Renaissance man. And so this entire thing is actually a stick we found in the creek bed, Cedar Creek. And an artisan sat with pages out of Leonardo's sketchbook, or reproductions of pages of Leonardo's sketchbook, and just drew and wrote in Latin all over the staff. We had to make 2 of these because at the end of the show, he breaks his staff. And we ran for about 30 performances and didn't want to have to do a staff for every performance, so we made a breakaway staff and the normal staff. And so we have a pair of these. Another staff, this is Merlin's staff from Camelot, which goes way back. The designer designed basically a stick that was carved to have things like hands. Here's a little hand, and there's an eyeball. At the top here, we actually have a little wizard. Again, to carve this out of wood and for it to survive for our summer when it's so dry here, it probably would have cracked and broken at some point. So instead, this is a piece of plastic PVC pipe, and it's covered with a material called friendly plastic, which is a little pellet material that you heat up in water, and it gets moldable, and you can shape it, and when it dries, you can then paint it, sand it, work with it. And so this whole thing is covered with friendly plastic to bring out all of these details that the designer had drawn into the sketch, but also to make it survive in our climate. 2 more. This one is actually before my time, so it's at least 30 years old. And this is basically a pool cue that's been covered in layers of industrial felt. So it's a thick felt, and then glue is put on it to make it really stiff and hard. And it looks like it's carved. It's a really fun piece. Again, looks really cool, like someone spent hours and hours carving it, but fairly simple to put together. And then this one is one of my favorites. This is the Mad Queen, Queen Margaret from Richard. And this is literally just a piece of dowel covered in lace, layers and layers of lace, and then beads and some seashells. Here's a little plastic monkey. We put monkeys in every show, so there's a little monkey. Some little foam pieces we got from the craft store. This top is a plastic Christmas ornament. And again, we don't see the detail that close from the stage, but when you're in the audience and you look at this and the light hits it, it just creates a great texture. And visually it's a very interesting piece, whereas if it was just a dowel painted gold, it wouldn't be really that interesting to look at. So we not only do we buy stuff, make stuff, and pull stuff, but we also take donations. We're constantly looking for old stuff. Sometimes we can't afford the piece we really need. So we're happy to take donations, tax write-offs. You can get a tax donation letter for the IRS for donating stuff to us. As a matter of fact, this giant buffet was just donated to us about a week ago. It's 2 pieces that go together. We're working on building a cart for it so it can sort of roll around and be out of the way when we don't need it. So yeah, donations are awesome. Here we have Artemis and Apollo from last year's 12th night. Giant statues that were sort of a scenery and paints thing, but they weren't sure they wanted to hold on to them. We have quite a few statues in here, and so I don't want to see them go away because the work on them is really cool. So this aisle has some of our taller cabinetry, like this wardrobe, which we purchased at an antique store in Las Vegas. This was in the price last year. And then some of our other tall cabinets. A lot of these have been donated over the years by different people. Above them are a lot of our trunks. Some of these are built. This one's from Peter and the Starcatcher. We've repainted some of them over the years, bought some new, and then some of them are antiques. Some of them have been restored, as a prop might be, not to its original condition, but nicer condition than when we found it. Others have been left in a very deteriorated state. You may see a lot of these next year in Cymbeline. And then our hand props start here on the other side. So all of our hand props, to save space, are on rolling baker's racks. So we don't need to have aisles for all of them. So we can literally find the one that we need with the label on the front, pull it out, and then we can find the stuff we need from the shelf, and then put it back. So it saves us a ton of space. This is one of our animal shelves. We do a lot of animals. I don't know why that is exactly, but we do a lot of animals. So we have an armadillo. It was actually a purchased armadillo that was used in Greater Tuna a number of years ago. This is one of our catfish from Big River that you have to cut open and find stuff in its belly. So this is fabric that's sewn, has some foam inside of it. The gills are made out of a thin plastic sheeting material. Yeah, it's a cool prop. We have a porcupine from a production of Comedy of Errors, our Western Comedy of Errors. This is built on a taxidermy form, so a styrofoam form that we bought from a taxidermy place of a porcupine. It's covered with this really long fur that we found at Joann Fabrics, and then we just took glue and ran it through the fabric to make it all sort of stiff and crunchy. And then the quills are actually lollipop sticks that we just bent and then glued into the foam. So again, a lot of fairly inexpensive materials. When you put them together with a talented artisan, you get a pretty realistic looking porcupine. One of my other favorite props is, I believe his name is Wilbur, I forget, but this is a pig head from Foxfire, in which the old lady is basically skinning the pig to be able to boil it and make souse meat. So again, a taxidermy form, so you can see the foam here. And then we covered it with terry cloth that we used brown paint and glue to make look skin-like, texture-like, fur-like, I guess. And then as she's peeling it, we actually made individual panels of fur that could peel off with Velcro and get replaced every night. So as the scene went on, she could reveal different parts of the skin. There's, I think, 5 or 6 here that she could peel off. One of the other things this pig had to do is a gentleman comes up to the house and wants to purchase the property from her while she's trying to skin the pig, and she struggles trying to get the eye out. So she asks him to help. And so, again, using the dull knife that we gave them, in the ear here is this is actually a food coloring squeeze bottle. And it runs to a tube that runs underneath the skin to the corner of the eye here. And as he popped the eye out, which is actually a plastic grape that we painted, he squeezed the food coloring bottle, and it was full of disappearing ink that shot out the tube onto his white shirt. It made a big black spot. He was only on stage for another minute or two, and then he left the stage. And about 5 minutes later, the way disappearing ink works, because of the heat, it actually disappeared. So we got a big black spot on the costume. No issue in the costume department, but a very great moment on stage with this pig. Okay, so now we're going to move on down the aisle here. So above us we have crates and buckets and watering cans, and way up high we have lampshades, bird cages hanging in this aisle as well. A lot of fake food carts. Some stuff's pre-made, some of it is just individual, like fruits, breads, things like that we can make platters or baskets or things depending on what the show calls for. Food packaging, some pre-plated dessert things here, beds, barrels above. Then we get into like rustic dishware, and then nicer dishware, punch bowls, silver tea sets, things like that. Then into crystal bottles of all kinds. We have leather wrapped flasks for some of our outdoor Shakespeare plays, modern liquor bottles for some of our other plays, more drinkware including pewter, china, stemware. You never know what a show's going to call for, so you have to have a lot of options. Also above us is luggage. Most of the luggage is 2 pieces deep, so you have to get up on a ladder to see what's behind, but it's kind of grouped by style, type, sometimes by color. So again, we cover a lot of different periods of time in our shows, so having a lot of luggage options so you can find the right piece to fit the show is important, which is why we have so much stuff.
So here, this is sort of the back of the warehouse. We have some green show storage and some bins. Then we have rocks and tree stumps, which surprisingly we use quite a bit. And then coming across, we have a lot of existing trees, ficus trees. In a second, you're going to see some pine trees, some wisteria trees, some fruit trees, and things like that. We pull those a lot just to fill in and mask. Some more large pots here. And then we were lucky enough that many years ago there was a craft store where the Joanne store is now that closed. And we were able to go in and buy their old floral display racks. So all of our stems of flowers are actually sort of by color and type open in these little bins. So designers can come in and literally sort of build bouquets by grabbing individual flowers, and they're not getting crushed by being stored in bins or things like that, which is actually a really nice feature. We do a lot of greenery. So scenery builds the tree, but we have to put the leaves on it and things like that. So we have bins and bins of leaves and ivy and vines and grape and all kinds of stuff down this aisle that help us to do a lot of that. That's reusable until it literally falls apart. So we tend to reuse that for several years. More hand props on this side, decorative dressing, so things that would sit on shelves, things like that, globes, sailing ships, those kinds of things. Above us, there's tea carts, bar carts, things like that. Lots of books, both real and fake, beds. We have a little bit of everything. We also do a lot of soft goods, fabric things, banners, curtains, tablecloths, all those sorts of things also fall into our world. So all of these bins along here that you see that are numbered are those things sort of sorted. So lacy wafting curtains, American flag bunting, UK flags. And these we're constantly updating and adding. This past year we actually went through and we have sort of sections. So there's a bag section and then a tablecloth section, and we actually left numbers at the end of each section so we can add more bins and not have to like renumber again, because we kept having to renumber all of our bins every time we'd add a new bin of tablecloths or something. So we finally sort of fixed that problem. So wood ladders are getting harder and harder to find. So we have a large collection of vintage wood ladders. Lots more hand props, personal care, smoking, music. These are instruments that don't play. Instruments that do play live somewhere else. Religious and ceremonial items. Lots of candles, candlesticks, fire. You can probably hear Turtle, our shop cat, in the background meowing. She's trying to find us. Lots of fireplaces. Large and small. My favorite is right here. This is actually a pot-bellied stove that we built for Johnny Guitar, made out of flower pots. These are plastic flower pots. Some wood molding, some wood legs, textured spray paint. Pretty convincing from a couple feet away. This is our... There she is. This is our wall of lanterns and sconces and sconce shades. So each of these has a number next to it, how many we have and what bin it's located in, and then we have bin storage elsewhere so you know how many of a lantern you want. We can see if we have that many and get them and pull them out of the bin. So it's really nice to be able to sort of see what we have without having them all out somewhere, because they would take up a lot of space. Additional lighting stuff, as well as pillow storage here in the corner. We come around the corner to large musical instruments. We have a lot of pianos, piano fortes, box pianos, some that we've built, some that we've modified, some that we can slide an electronic keyboard into. And then here, something else we're never going to use again, but I just couldn't throw it away. This is a chunk of the tree from the 2011 production of Midsummer Night's Dream that Fred Adams directed for the 50th. It actually has 3 sets of LED lights in it. I'm hoping someday to maybe get it so it will turn on when the lights come on in the warehouse. So there you go. Those are some of the treasures in our warehouse. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. So that's my warehouse and my shop. Any questions? Throw them in the chat. We got about 10 minutes left in the hour. And yeah, I'll answer if you got anything. If not, we'll just wrap up.
Ben, there was a question if you showed the pig head in the animal webinar.
I believe I did. I'm pretty sure that he was in the animal webinar. Yeah, because he's just so good, so cool, and his fur is so great. It was so simple to do with the towel fabric and then the white glue and the paint. Yeah. We also built a full body pig as well, kind of using that same method for a production of Big River, and that may have been in that SPMinar as well. How long did it take for your inventory to get this big? So when I started working here, we owned about 20 pieces of furniture. So in 33 years, we've gone from 20 pieces to over 4,000 pieces. We build on average 20 to 30 new pieces a year, or maybe a little more depending on the shows. But we get tons of donations. We do lots of yard sailing and antique shopping and things like that when we can afford it. But we're really well known in the area for taking donations, and so we get a lot that way as well. Uh, but it's a lot of work to maintain the inventory. The inventory is awesome and so great, and has saved us tens of thousands of dollars in the last 4 or 5 years we did the inventory, because we can show designers furniture. I don't like dig through and look at shelves and things like that. It's all on the computer with dimensions and everything. And so they can make decisions early in the design process. So if we don't have something, we have more time to get it. So we don't need to pay for like fast shipping or things like that, which also helps. But more often than not, we probably have the piece that they want. And now they know that. So we don't need to spend the money on that. We can focus our small budgets on other things. Um, what's the Okay, do you do shows all year long or only in the summers? So we mostly do shows in the summer. Our big season is we open late June, early July. We start opening shows tomorrow. We'll open 9 shows in the next 9 days. Um, our shows now run into October, so we've kind of extended into the fall. We also do an educational tour in January, February, and March that goes out to 9,000 school children in 5 Western states. We're working on expanding and probably adding a Christmas show in the next year or two. So we're mostly a summer stock, but we're slowly expanding our season to be longer. Um, what's the biggest challenge of doing theater in Utah? We're in a really small town. Our closest decent antique mall is 3 hours away in Las Vegas. Salt Lake is 4 hours away. So getting things here, there's no big stores here. We have a Walmart. We had a Joann's that closed, and we have a Home Depot. So finding things, getting the materials we need, is often a challenge. Uh, so that's the biggest challenge. And we got used to it early on. Now we have credit cards and we have the internet, and so we can get things from all over the world. But sort of making things out of found objects has sort of been a mainstay of my career here because we had to early on, and now it's just sort of fun to keep doing that. When you say a category has been inventory, does that mean a spreadsheet or a software that helps? So our smaller things like frames, fabric, weapons are all in Google spreadsheets with photos that are easy to share that way. The warehouse inventory is in a FileMaker program that a friend of mine created a prop inventory using FileMaker. Um, and so we actually use FileMaker for that. But there's lots of ways to do that now with Airtable or other things like that. When do you start working on props for the first show in the season? So, like I said, we're opening 9 shows in the next 9 days, and we go into tech for 2 more in a week. So all the shows kind of open at once. But we will start design meetings for next year in about 7 weeks, early August. We'll have concept meetings. We see preliminary designs in early October for all of the shows. We see final designs for everything in early January. So Marielle and I, my assistant, who also happens to be my amazing wife, we start working on things and buying materials and prepping things and pulling and tagging in January. We have one local artisan who we've brought in the last couple of years, mid-January, early February, to help us. The rest of the staff literally arrives the day that our actors do in early May. And we basically have 8 weeks from first day of build until first audience. So uh, there's a lot of prep work. Luckily, a lot of our designers are returning over years, so we have a good dialogue to start conversations, and they know our stock pretty well and things. But so we start actually building in early January, um, but the main build is early May. So it's kind of crazy. Okay, did I get all the questions? Oh, there's no one. There's not a lot of free time because we're in design meetings. We have to hire every year because all of our staff, except for my assistant, are seasonal, and a lot of them are early career, so they get a job at a regional theater or somewhere where they can't come back or they have school. So I replace most of my staff almost every year. So there's a lot of time spent going to conferences and hiring. The educational tour takes up a chunk of time. We do spend some time on warehouse and shop projects. We have a list every year that we try to work on a couple of things. Um, but yeah, we only produce 4 months out of the year, but it's definitely a 12-month busy job. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? 30 seconds. Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and watching this. I want to thank Nikki and Sarah for helping run the SPMinar and do the recording. This will be on YouTube in a couple of weeks. So if you want to go back to a particular conference you recommend for hiring, we go to SETC is where we do a lot of our hiring. And then we try to like fill in gaps and stuff at USITT are the two main conferences that we go to. But thanks for attending, and I hope you had fun and got to see some cool stuff. And if you will get a survey after this, please fill it out, especially if you want to see more shop tours. We have some thoughts about doing some other ones. If you liked this, let us know. Or if there's other topics you would like us to cover in SPMinars, we're always looking for topics that we can cover to help support you. So thank you all, and have a good evening.